Today, I'm gonna go over how you can create an Elasticsearch cluster on Amazon EC2 instances. So first thing, of course, is to bring up the EC2 instances. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So go to Launch Instance, select the image you want to use, and for a production EC2 instance, you need some bigger ones, but for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna select a general purpose EC2 instance that has like 8 gigs of RAM. Next, we're gonna configure the number of instances we want to use, and everything else we're just gonna accept the defaults. Also, in case of production, you also would want to add storage, but for this demo, we're just gonna go without storage. Okay, and I already have this key pair, so I'm just gonna use this. Launch. Okay, and once you go on your EC2 console, you're gonna see those instances being initialized. And while that is happening, let me just give them some descriptive names. So ES1 and ES2. Okay, now let's log into the first node and install Elasticsearch on it, and then we'll repeat the same step with the other node. So this is going to be the key pair file that we selected, and EC2 user that. Okay. And we're gonna install Elasticsearch through RPM. So run this command to install Elasticsearch, and at the time of this video, this is the most recent version of Elasticsearch, but whenever you are installing it, make sure that you are using the most recent version or the version which you want to install. And this is installed, and we want to execute these couple of commands so that we are sure that this is set up as a service, and as well as whenever the system reboots, the service comes up. And this is going to be the command to start Elasticsearch as a service, but we're not gonna do that as we need to do some config changes. Now let's go and make the config changes. The first config change which we want to make is the JVM options. So go and edit this file, and we want the memory that gets allocated to Elasticsearch to be more than what the default is, which is usually very low. And here I'm just selecting, it's a 8 GB system. The system has 8 GB RAM, so we're gonna take half of that. Next, we will go to this file where you specify the Elasticsearch cluster settings as well as some other settings, and then modify first the cluster name. We call it ES demo, and then the name of this node, let's keep it like this, node 1. And then after that, we need to specify the host this should bind to. So we'll just use the IP address of this host. All right, and after that, we need to specify all the hosts that are part of this cluster, and for that you use this config settings. So this node itself is part of this cluster, and then the other one would be this other EC2 instance, which we're gonna set up very soon. And let's also specify this parameter the initial master node, and for that we'll just specify this one node as the initial master. And the last setting that we want to specify is node.master, and for this node this is going to be true because this is going to be the master node. Now let's set up the other EC2 instance. So I'm going to grab the public DNS name and then I'm going to log in. So open it in another tab. Okay, we're logged in, and then we're going to follow the same steps that we did with the other node. So Elasticsearch have been installed on this host too, using the same steps as we did on the other host. And I've also bumped up the JVM memory parameters. Now I'm going to show you, because this is going to change a little bit. I'm going to modify the Elasticsearch config file over here for this node. So the cluster name is going to be the same, which is ES demo. Node name should be different. Next is network host. All right, so network host is this one, which is the private IP of this EC2 instance. And then we go and modify the seed host. So this we can just copy from here. And then initial master is going to be the same as what we specified in the other node, which is that the other node is going to be the initial master. And this is it as far as this node is concerned. Okay, both config for both the nodes is done. Now we are going to go back to the master node and then we're going to bring it up. So now we're going to enter the systemctl command to start Elasticsearch as a service. Okay, it actually started, because in case we have had an error, it would have outputted the error. So this is running. Now let's go back to the other node and run the same command. So Elasticsearch has been started successfully on this host as well. Let's check with the status command. And now let's just check the health of our cluster. So we're just gonna do a curl command here. Nope, what happened? Okay, we didn't specify the port. Okay, I think one thing which we missed is that we didn't open the port in the firewall settings in EC2. So let's do that. If you go to any of these two nodes that we brought up, right, both have the same security group. So if you go here and if you look at the inbound settings, we don't have a rule for Elasticsearch port. Now Elasticsearch port, default port is 92, but we're gonna select a range because the cluster communicates on ports between 9200 and 9300, and this is not a good practice. In this case, we should be using the security group, but just for the purpose of demo, I'm opening this up to anyone. Okay, let's try now. And as you can see, now it worked. And when you see the number of nodes, this is 2. So there you go. We have 2 node Elasticsearch clusters set up.